We will share screen. Okay. So today we'll continue our discussion on inheritance, and we will go ahead and create another example here. And you can see here we are creating a class called shape, which is a parent class. And as the parent class which you want to extend, you have to use the keyword virtual with it. And then inside of the shape class, you have a color variable, and then you have is a constructor. And then there is a calculate area. So if your child classes needs to override, you have to also mark that method as virtual also. And then there is a describe method. So this is our shape class. And then the circle class extends from the shape. So it will get everything that the shape class has. And now it is also defining its own version of calculate area. Okay. And similarly, you have a child class called rectangle. And that rectangle has its own calculate area. So when you are executing the code, it depends on what is on the right side. And that particular class method will be called. So let me go ahead. This is something you have to answer me. So we'll start with our first class, which is the shape. So we'll go over here. Don't worry, as we progress, I do have a good example towards the end on inheritance. So this is just the basics. So we'll go here, go over to the developer console, and we'll click on debug, file, new epics class, and shape. And here we have to go back, and I have to mark this class as virtual. So I will go ahead and declare the class as virtual, and inside I have the constructor and the calculate area and describe method. And then I will go to file, new, circle, and then we will also create another class, which is your rectangle. And in the circle, I will go ahead and define this. So you will use the keyword extend and the name of the class of the parent class. And similarly, we will go over to the rectangle class, and we will go ahead and get this one. Okay. Now, if I have to execute this, I want everybody to give me the answer. And here I will go ahead, go to debug, and I'll change this to shape. Okay. So now, guys, what is going to be the output of this? So we go here. This is the shape class. And this is your circle. And this is your rectangle. So quickly give me the output of this program. So an important point here is you need to know which particular class method will run, and it always depends on which instance you are creating. Now, why this is okay? Because circle extends from shape, so this is okay to say. Similarly, rectangle also extends from shape, so you can say something like this. Now, in this case, C dot of describe, which particular describe method will be called? We don't have a describe method, we only have it in the class. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and tell me, this is what the describe method says.
Sorry, what's the question?
Okay, the question is the output of this program. So what will be displayed onto the screen?
This is a red. This is a red.
Hmm.
This is a red color.
Okay. What is going to be the area?
The area will come from the other class, right?
Yeah. So here, let's debug this. So first thing is we have created new circle. So now, first of all, this constructor will be called, and to this constructor, you are passing the color as red and the radius as 5. So now super color. So what will happen? This is the first statement. So it will call the constructor from the parent class, and all that parent class constructor is doing is setting up the color variable. So the color has been set open to red, and the other thing is, so we go ahead and do the red here, and then the radius is going to be equals to 5. Okay, so this is your first thing, the first object. Then the second thing is it is going to go ahead and go over to the new of rectangle. Okay, so it is going to the rectangle class, and in the rectangle class, it is taking the color. So color is going to be blue, and then you have a length and a width. Okay, so color is going to be blue, length is going to be equals to 4, and width is going to be equals to 6. Okay, so there are two objects, and this is how their instance variables are set up. Now you are saying c dot of describe. So you are calling the describe method on the C. C is nothing but you're calling the instance of circle, but the reference is the shape. So C dot of describe, do you see a describe method in the circle class? Let's go ahead and see. There is no describe, right? So what it will go? It will go to the shape class, and it will go ahead and calculate this describe method. Now, inside of this describe, it will say this is a color. Color means it will be red because you're calling it here. This is pointing to C. This is your C, and this one is your R. So you're saying C dot describe, this is a red shape with area. It's supposed to say red circle shape with area. Calculate area. Now, calculate area is going to be from the, not this one, not the one from the circle. It will come from the circle. So the circle's calculate area is 3.14 multiplied by 5 into 5. Similarly, it will go ahead and call the describe method from, again, because the rectangle class doesn't have it. So if you go to the rectangle, it doesn't have a describe method. It will go to the shape class, and it will say this is a blue shape with area, calculate area, not this calculate area, but from the rectangle class, and the rectangle class area would be length multiplied by width, so it will be 24. Did everybody understands?
Yeah.
Okay, so now here, if I go ahead and execute it, we will go and execute this, debug only, and this is your result. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Don't give override keyword on the shape.
Yeah, because you're only overriding this method, which is your calculate area. Let me see what happens.
So in the circle class, if we don't give the override keyword, then what's going to happen?
It's going to give you a syntax error.
So now, if I want to use the calculate area from the parent class, then what I have to do?
Okay, so if you have to, let's first go ahead and do this. And in this case, if you go ahead and you want to use the one from the shape class, then you have to provide. Now the problem is, in this case, the shape only takes in one constructor, which is of the type color. So you won't be able to pass anything else. So here you will say shape, and the constructor would be this. Similarly, it would be new of shape. Let's leave the rectangle one here as it is. Okay, so now in this case, if I do c.describe, now that is going to call the calc from the shape class. That's why it is giving you the value 0. Okay.
So what you did, but I mean, if you can show in the.
So all I did was I changed the right hand side.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be new of shape, so it will call the shape class shape class calculate area method.
Got it.
Okay. Now,
do you have to give virtual keyword for?
Yes.
I mean, why do you have to give virtual keyword for both class and method?
That is how the Apex syntax says that, okay, so virtual is going to be used if you are extending the class, but if you are overriding a method, that method also needs to use the keyword virtual in the parent class.
Oh, but this is the parent class, so which means that if any other child class is gonna extend this or any of this method, then we have to give virtual for that. So that means that if any of the child class wants to extend the describe method, then we need to use virtual on before the describe. In the
Come back again to the question. Come back again. What is it? What are you saying?
If we want to override from any of the child class for the describe method in parent class, then we have to use virtual keyword on the describe class as well.
Yes. So if you want to override this method, so here I'm going to go ahead and mark it as virtual. And if I do that, and I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and save it. So once I come here, so you have to use the virtual if you are overriding this one method.
So even if I'm not going to override it, if I still
then
go ahead,
you don't have to use it. Then you don't have to use it.
No, but even if just to be safe, if I give virtual keyword anyway, is that gonna hurt? Even if thinking that in the future I may override this.
Yes, in future you may override it, so you don't have to change the. It will still work without it. It won't give you any error.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And let me go ahead and make sure. Which one did you override? You override the
I'm still confused between virtual and override in here.
Okay, so virtual basically, I think you missed yesterday's class, right?
Yeah, I watched the recording. Yeah, I missed it. Yeah.
You did watch the recording. Okay, good. So the virtual basically, whenever your parent class, so whenever you have a concept of parent and then a child, do you understand why we need inheritance?
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever, this is how you have to remember the syntax. This is not something I invented. This is the rules of Apex which we need to follow. So whenever a child class extends from the parent, this parent class needs to be marked as virtual.
Got it. Okay.
And if there is a method that you want to override means there is a method defined in the parent class you want to redefine in the child also. That is called as method override.
Got it. Okay.
If you have to override a method, that method also needs to be declared virtual in the parent, and then in the child class you will use the keyword virtual. So you can, in the child class you will use the keyword override. That tells that you are overriding this method.
Okay.
Okay. Now, any questions before we go further? And let me go ahead and
Deepika,
execute this. Yeah.
Deepika, if we don't use super in line 5 of circle class, it will break. It will start giving error.
You have to think, right? Because see, if you by default, what happens is if you don't specify this line, there is this line already there. Okay, this is by default. Salesforce adds it on every constructor. Whenever a constructor gets called, the parent constructor will be called first. But in the parent class, you don't have a constructor which takes in no argument, so it will fail. So that's why if you want to go ahead and if you call this constructor, you have to explicitly say that. Does that make sense?
I was thinking of saying this dot color is equal to color rather than super.
Okay, so if you're saying this one is dot color is equals to color, if
I think
you do
it will change the color of this class rather than parent class. Then that's wrong, right?
yeah, but then still it is going to give you this error that no default constructor available. So
Okay.
because it is trying to call the super with this empty parameters. Okay, so the super line is gets added automatically. So if you have a if you don't have a constructor with no parameters, it will fail. So if I go ahead and create a public shape constructor, now if I go, this is just a simple constructor, no argument constructor. If I do that, I don't have the super line. It was previously giving me a syntax error, and now it doesn't give you a syntax error because you satisfied the condition of the super. So
Yeah, means there is a hidden line which we can't
yeah,
see, which is calling super, but that super with non argument is already you defined manually.
yeah. So basically, every constructor in the child class has this line called super without a parameter. It is implicitly added in every constructor of the child class. Okay. Now there are two options. Do you have a constructor which takes no argument? If you don't have it, then that code is going to fail because if you saw here, if I remove this constructor, it started giving me an error. Okay, because what it is trying to do, if I go ahead and do this, save it, circle, we have a constructor here. What happened? It was giving an error a few minutes back. Oh, let me go ahead and save this. Yeah, now because it was saved before. So here it is saying no default constructor available in the super type shape. So super type is your parent class. So it is saying that you don't have a default constructor, and that is right. But if you replace this with something like this, super, and then you pass in the color here, let's say we pass the color as uh, circle green, okay? And this circle green is going to set up this color into this color variable. But then the next line, you're updating it again. So here, what will be the final output, guys? That's a good one. So if I go ahead and do, will the final output would be circle green or will it be red color? And then I'm giving it radius of 10. What do you think will be the final output of the circle color?
Red 314.
Red and 314 because that got overridden with the next line. So if I go ahead and do execute, it's going to say 314 and then the next one it is red in color. So whatever this was doing was superseded with the next line. Okay, and super can only be the first line. So if you try to add this line over in any other place, it is going to complain about it. It has to be the first line. Okay, always remember that inside of the constructor. So it's going to give you some error. System is pretty slow for some reason. This org. It's still saving. So so you can see here, call to super must be the first statement in a constructor method. So a couple of things to remember. You have a public class, you have a child class. If they are extending, if the child is, you have to use the keyword extends. There can only be one parent. Okay, you cannot have multiple parents. And then this class, the parent class needs to be virtual. And if you have a method that the child class is going to override, then child class also should use the keyword override in that method, and the parent class should use the keyword virtual. And then inside of the constructor, inside of the child class constructor, automatically this line gets added super with the no argument constructor. But if you want to have your own another parent constructor to be called, you will use super explicitly and you will pass in whatever parameter that constructor needs, but it should be the first line. So far, this is what we have discussed. And why do we need inheritance? When you have some piece of code which is duplicated in multiple places, you can put, if it makes sense, okay, if it makes sense, you create a parent class with all the common functionality, and the remaining classes will extend from that parent class. Okay. Any questions up to this point?
Only the super keyword, if you can explain a little bit that, I mean, from the note that you gave, it is really good. But at the very end, the super class requirement, if you can explain a little bit.
So
With
basically,
parameter and without parameter.
okay, so if you I think you didn't. Okay, so if you remember in the constructors, right? When we talk about constructors, uh, you know what a constructor is, right? Constructor is whenever you're creating an object, behind the scene, a constructor gets called, right? And if you don't create any constructor of your own, Salesforce gives you a no default constructor without you telling them, as long as you don't define your own constructor. The moment you define your own constructor, you don't get this no argument constructor. So far, we are good, Rahul?
Yeah, and this default is the super.
No. Yes.
Okay.
So the default, so what it happens is, let's say you have a parent class, okay? And inside of this parent class, you have created multiple constructors. There is one constructor which takes in a parameter of the type string. Then there is another constructor that takes in the two parameters. One is integer and the other one is also integer. So you have two parameters. Now, inside of the child class, what happens is, this is your parent class with two constructors. Inside of the child class, automatically, if you have a constructor, if you don't even call parent class constructor, this line will be written implicitly behind the scene. When super of this is written, then what happens is, you inside of this, do you think it will fail?
That parent class constructor are in two different name, right? Or it's the same constructor with different
Constructor
argument?
always have the same name. Constructor basic. What is a constructor? Constructor has the same name as the class name. That is the property of a constructor. So the thing is, this parent and this parent is the name of the class. So the constructor will also say parent, right? So parent, one constructor takes in one parameter, another constructor takes in two parameters. Okay.
No, I mean to say that here, in this case, the parent has two constructor the same name. I mean, two of them are in same name but different argument.
Yeah, constructor always have the name of the class. So circle is the name of the class. The constructor will also be called with the name circle. If you create another constructor, that also will be called circle. But only thing would be, either the parameter list would be different or the type will be different.
Oh yeah, yes.
Remember constructor overloading?
Yes. I recall
Okay.
it now. Yeah.
Now in this case, because this line gets implicitly added, you don't have a constructor of your own defined with no argument. So this time you are going to get a compilation error. So what you will do is, you will explicitly call one of these constructor to make it work. So That's why you will pass in this n. Does it make sense, Rahul?
Okay, so either n or x, like two parameter constructor, like
Yeah,
super
either
with
you
two.
can pass n or you can pass super xy, but you cannot have, you cannot call both the constructors.
Okay, and is there any other way without using the super?
Another way without using the super is you define a no argument constructor, and that no argument constructor will automatically get called. But if you don't want to call the no argument constructor, you want to explicitly call this constructor, then you have to explicitly call it through your child class constructor.
And does it matter that the super keyword, the super should be the first line or second line? Doesn't
Super
matter.
should always be the first line. You cannot put it on the second or third line. Super should always come first inside of your child class constructor.
Okay.
Okay. So now going to the next. Yeah, go ahead.
Deepika, well, this example which you were discussing just now, that a parent class has a property, not a property, instance variable called x, and then instance variable called y. So it has two constructors, one accepts x, one accepts both x, y. Now the child class has another instance variable called z. So now we have to define a constructor for child, and we also have to give the values of x and y. So we will, I mean, x, y, z, 3 times we need to give.
So basically, you will, okay, so see here in this rectangle class, you are passing 3, right?
Yeah.
Color goes to shape, and the remaining 2 is within your here. But let's say you are saying you have another public string.
No, mine was very simple, because in parent you have already, this is right. In parent you have already color. Just add one more in parent, public string diameter or something. No, nothing. Some other instance variable, maybe public string xy, if you can do, then
X and Y, you want 3 or just 2?
just 2.
Okay, so here you want to say X, string X, and then you want to say string Y, and then here you're going to say this dot of X is equals to X, and then this dot of Y is equals to Y, right?
Yes, this is fine. But
Okay, so
the
now
problem
we'll go.
is that when you go to child, it has its own property, which I was thinking of Z, but it has a radius, its own exclusive property or instance variable. Then what we need to define
So
here
you're going to
is
say
color
string,
X, Y, and radius.
yeah, string X, Y is going to be this, and then you will call super, and you will pass in the color, you will pass in X, and then you will pass in Y. No,
But
sorry,
I don't think so. We have a constructor there with 3 parameters.
Right here.
We have.
Yeah.
So if we define like multiple constructor here, like one which take one input color, another takes X and Y, and then the third one is with all the 3, then it's up to us. We have flexibility in the child class to use any one of them.
Right.
Okay.
Here, it should work. If you go to this one, what happens here? String X and Y. So first of all, let's save this. Okay, there's a issue here. What did I miss? Let me count. Okay. Now this constructor takes in 3 parameters. This constructor takes in only 1 parameter. And now if you go to circle class, you basically are calling super with those 3 parameters.
We don't need this line. So
you just need this for you.
yeah, I think we need to try it to understand it clearly. But thank you for sharing.
Yeah, but did you? Yeah, but this is what you were asking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, we can do something like this. So now let's go to another concept here, which is abstract. Okay. So see here, Abstract basically, sometimes you just want to say every child must implement this method. If you want to force it, okay? That's what an abstract class does. You cannot create an object of an abstract class directly. It is meant to be a blueprint only. So let's say shape, right? Shape itself doesn't tell you anything. Shape doesn't tell you that, okay, which object are you talking about? So if you want to prevent the creation of the object of the shape class, like if you want this line to throw an error, shape s is equals to new of shape, because you don't know what kind of shape you're talking about, right? So if you want to prevent the creation of the object of that class, you mark that class as abstract. Okay, you will use the keyword abstract. And if you have make abstract can also be used with a method. When you use the keyword abstract with a method, basically you're telling that this method doesn't have any body. Okay, and if in your class you have one or any, you can have one or more abstract method and non-abstract methods also. Moment you have even one abstract method, you have to mark the class also as abstract. Couple of things I'll repeat here. So abstract basically tells you that you cannot create an object of this class, not an object. If you try to create an object, you will get an error. Now, abstract method basically just have the signature of, it doesn't have any body. Okay, it will just have a signature and there won't be any open and closing braces, and this method is called as a abstract method. Now, the condition is whenever any class extends from this abstract class, then it is the responsibility of that class to provide the definition of all the abstract methods that are there in the parent class. Are you getting my point, or is it going too fast?
Maybe with an example, I guess.
Okay, so let me first revise it. So first of all, you can see here a couple of things. Abstract class you cannot create an object of this class, first of all. So here I have created a class called employee and I am saying it is abstract. So the moment I use the keyword abstract, that means if I try to say employee emp is equals to new of employee, this line will give me an error. First important thing. Now, inside of an abstract class, you can have an abstract method. This is how an abstract method looks like. You can see here, there is no body. Remember, there is no opening and curly. There is no definition of the method. All you are saying is using the keyword abstract. Everything else is same as a method declaration. There is a return type, there is a method name, and if there is a parameter, you will pass. But you are ending it with a semicolon. So this is called as a abstract method. Okay, because a method without the body is called as an abstract method. Now, if any class extends from this employee class, so let's say we created a full-time employee which extends from the employee class, then it is the responsibility of this full-time employee class to provide the definition of calculate salary. Right? Because if somebody says full-time employee EMP dot of calculate salary, it needs to figure out what logic you want to run, right? So it is the responsibility of the child class to provide the definition of all the abstract methods. Now let me go ahead and do this example and things will get clear. Otherwise, I will repeat myself again. So you have created a employee class. So we'll go ahead and go over here and we will go to the file, close all, file, new, fx class, employee, click OK. We do already have that name. So here, let's go to the file. employee 1. Okay, this is the name of the class. And this class, I'm using the keyword abstract in it, but before I do it, let me copy it. Okay. And here, as you can see here, it tells you what the issue is. Defining type for abstract methods must be declared as abstract. Means if you have an abstract method in your class, then you basically, if I go here, it has to be marked as abstract. Okay. And here it's going to be this one, employee 1. Okay, and then here, if you go to the next class, which is your full-time employee, I'm going to go ahead and call this full-time employee. This is your second class, and this class extends. So I will say extends from your employee 1 class. Moment you hit the save here, you're going to get an error. Now, the reason you're going to get an error is because this employee class, employee 1 class, has a abstract method called calculate salary. So if there is an abstract method, then it becomes the responsibility of this class to basically provide the definition for that method. And it says over here as well, saying class full-time employee must implement the abstract method. And this is the one it is complaining on, calculate salary. You can get rid of this error. If you make this class also abstract, then it is not the responsibility of this class to provide the definition, as long as it is a non-abstract class. Okay, so now if I try to hit save here, in this case, it is not giving me any error related to that method. Okay, so if a class who is extending is also abstract, then you don't have to worry about it. But if the class that is extending is a non-abstract class, then it is the responsibility of that non-abstract class to implement all the abstract methods which are defined in the parent class. Are we clear till this point? Speak up.
Not clear.
Sorry, maybe one more time.
So everybody understand what is abstract? Let's start with something. What is the meaning of the word abstract?
Which doesn't show details, and we are not able to identify, like a abstract painting, like
Exactly.
which doesn't show that object. It's just like a blob, maybe.
Yeah, like something which is basically doesn't give you any details. The core details is that's called an abstract painting. Okay, you can't figure out much. It might be a line going here, a line going there. You can figure out, you can basically assume whatever. So abstract method means a method which doesn't have any body. Okay, when I say any body, which means you don't define what that method is supposed to do. And instead of having the block, you will end it with a semicolon. So that method is called as an abstract method. So if any class, there is a parent class, now this parent class is marked as abstract. And there is a child class which extends from this parent class, and it is not an abstract class. Okay, you have not used the keyword abstract with this. So inside of this parent abstract class, let's say you have an abstract method 1. Okay, there is one abstract method. Then there is another abstract method called method 2. Okay, and then there is a non-abstract method called method 3, and which has a definition. Okay, so this is an abstract method, this is an abstract method. Now child class extends from this parent class. Now moment you write this line, then it is the responsibility of the child class to have this method 1 defined. So you will have to basically define what the method 1 is doing, because this abstract class doesn't have any definition. Similarly, you have to define method 2 also in this class because that is also a abstract class, the abstract method in your parent class. So it will be the responsibility of the child class to implement all the abstract methods. But if you made this child class also abstract, and inside of this, it is no longer your responsibility, right? Then inside of this, if you have another abstract method called method number 4, this is an abstract method. Now there is a child 2 class which extends from child class. Now how many methods does this child 2 has to implement? It has to implement method 1 and method 2, and it also has to implement method 4, because child class is extending from child and this child extends from the parent. So it becomes the responsibility of this class to provide the definition of all the abstract methods up in the chain. Okay, now there is a possibility this class method, it defined method number 2. Then in your child 2 class, you only have to define method number 1 and method number 4, because this method definition has already been defined. Are you getting my point, or I confused you more? Guys, say something. Repeat one more time.
It's not clear to me as well.
Okay, so basically understand. Whichever class, first of all, you cannot create an object of, it's a common sense. You cannot create an object of an abstract class, okay? If you can only create object of a non-abstract class. Now, what I'm saying is, let's assume there is you have a class called employee 1, okay? Inside of the employee 1, you have a method which is an abstract method called as calculate salary, something like that. Okay, this is a abstract method. When I say abstract method, means there is no body, you end it with a semicolon. Are we everybody's on the same page up to this point?
Yes.
Okay.
So
now,
is employee 1 is also an abstract class or no?
Employee 1 is an abstract class.
Okay, that's an abstract class too.
It is an abstract class, employee 1. It has an abstract method, calculate salary. Okay. Now you have another class, full-time employee. Okay. This class extends from employee 1. Employee 1 class. Okay. Now what will happen is, if I say, think about it. I say you cannot create an object of abstract class. Now you will basically you can create an object of this class because it is not a abstract class. So if I say full-time employee EMP is equals to new of full-time employee, and I say EMP dot of calculate salary. What is this calculate salary method doing? You haven't defined it anywhere, right?
Got it.
Are you getting my point? You haven't defined it. So Salesforce made sure that whenever you are extending from a class, and if that class is abstract class and it has abstract methods, then that class needs to first define all the abstract methods. So you have to provide the body for this calculate salary. That is your responsibility. That is the responsibility of this full-time employee class. Are you getting my point?
I got it, but I'm just trying to understand. So far it looks like a duplicated effort. If I need to define on a child class, why do I have to create an abstract?
Because, okay, very good question. Because I want a pattern to be followed. I want a framework to be followed. Okay. let's say I want to create another class called called part-time employee, and I want to have that same level. I want to have calculate somebody over there also.
Okay.
If you want to force that, then you can do it either through an interface, which we will talk later, or you can do it through abstract classes. The beauty of an abstract class is you can have abstract methods as well as regular methods, which is also called as non-abstract methods. Whereas an interface only has abstract methods. All the methods of an interface are abstract, which means they only have method signatures, no body. And we will talk about interface later, but let's focus on abstract. So here I have created a full-time employee, which extends from employee one. And the moment I did that, I got this error because I need to implement my calculate salary, which is a abstract method. So what I'll do is I'll go back here and I will go over to this full-time employee and I will define my calculate salary. So now calculate salary has its own definition. Okay. Now the next important thing, let's say we have another, I believe there is another class, which is called as a part-time employee. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and have another class here. File, new, Apex class, part-time employee. And this class also extends from your employee one. Now, the moment you hit save, it will give you the same complaint. The complaint would be you have to define this calculate salary. Okay, and you can see here the same error came up here. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing, paste it here. So this is your calculate salary. So part-time employee has its own version of calculating the salary, and full-time employee has a different mechanism to calculate the salary. Now, if I go over to debug, open the execute anonymous window, and I execute this piece of information, I want you to tell me what is going to be the output here. Okay, so first time, let's look at it. So you have full-time employee, constructor of which class would be called? This constructor would be called, right? And you're passing in name as Alice, hours is 160, and 5,000 is the salary. Okay, so name and hours, basically you created a object which is called as FT. Okay, and you created another object which you call it as PT. Okay, then Alice name is equals to Alice, then your hours is equals to 160, and the salary is equals to 5,000. Whereas this person's name is Bob, he's a part-time employee, hours is 80, and 25 is the, let me go back here to see the constructor, which is this one, rate. So here we are passing in the rate. So hours is 80 and the rate for part-time employee is 25. Now you're saying ft.of print payslip. Now where is this print payslip method? Print payslip method is available in the parent class employee one, right? So here it will say payslip for employee name Alice, hours worked 160, salary is calculate salary. So which calculate salary would be called? This calculate salary, and it is giving you monthly salary, which is nothing but 5,000. So it will print Alice 160 and 5,000. Any questions?
Deepika, my question is that both the concepts which you taught today, whether it is inheritance using virtual concept or inheritance using abstract, they both are enforcing the same thing which you mentioned, that someone like a person who knows the situation at a high level, so he defines the base implementation or the generic implementation, and then the developers will look at it and basically define their methods according to what he has imagined or he has idea of. Right? This is right. Is that right?
Yeah, somebody will build that framework, and
Ye-
maybe the other developers will make use of that framework.
Like
Yeah. So
probably, Ravi, if you remember, and this is something we have seen in my job, they've created like trigger framework, right? So they created a whole trigger framework, and anytime you have a trigger you have to create on something, a new object got created, and you have to write a trigger, you will extend from that framework, and automatically you will have to define all those methods, right? You have used something
right.
like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now come up with your question. What is
So
it?
now my question is, I was just thinking, like I have this trouble understanding abstract, but then I was checking like, then what is difference between, I was asking myself, what is the difference between virtual and abstract? Why there are two concepts? But then I got the answer, and I just want to check my answer with you, that my mind gave the answer like in virtual, in the first approach, the prefix was virtual. In the second approach, the prefix is abstract. Abstract is because there is a method for which no one wants to define the body, not even the architect, not even the developer. But
But
in the first approach, you had no choice. You had to have the body of the method, even if it is simple, and there is no choice. Someone has to define a simple body when the method was virtual. But the
correct.
moment the method became abstract,
You don't have,
we can leave the body of the method empty,
yeah,
and that's why Salesforce will force the developer who's extending that abstract class
yeah,
to have it at any cost. He doesn't have a choice.
exactly. And then another point is you cannot create an object of an abstract class. That is another point. You can create an object of the virtual class, but you can't do it from the abstract class.
But then in the filter in the employee one dot class, just if you can hover over to that, you have defined properties as well and a constructor as well. So if we are not able to, if we're not supposed to create an object of an abstract class, then why have properties and constructor? Or is it just an example?
It is just an example.
Oh,
Okay. So you basically, so now if I say, before we go ahead and if I execute this, let me just go less for the timing. And if I say employee one, ENP is equals to new of employee one, it's going to complain because it is first of all, it's going to complain because abstract class can't be constructed. And even if I give the right Alice and hours worked is 15. Okay, even if I'm calling the right constructor, it is still going to say abstract class cannot be constructed. You cannot create an object of an abstract class. Okay.
so what we normally will see in our code base, in our projects, in our job is abstract class with methods which can have body or
Yeah.
which do not
So,
have any body. They just have the braces and empty braces.
yeah, yeah.
But in the first approach, the virtual approach, there was
Uh,
no concept of leaving a method unimplemented.
correct. You have to implement every method in that base class, in this parent
And
class.
if an architect who's basically writing the framework for the developers, if he thinks that, oh, this is the moment when I want to leave my methods empty because I'm not sure what will happen in future, then that is the moment of truth for him to write a abstract method, and then the class will also become abstract as a result of it.
Yes, even if your class has even one abstract method, you have to make that class also abstract.
Okay, so let's say if I'm the architect and if I understood that, oh, this method I'm not sure of what will the implementation be for my developers, then that is an abstract method. As a result of it, my class has to be abstract,
Yeah,
and then the chain will follow. Like,
yeah,
I can have one more empty method because now I can.
yeah. And usually interfaces, when you're making a framework, you will have an interface. Interface is exactly like an abstract class. The only difference is in an abstract class, you can have abstract as well as non-abstract methods. Okay. When I say abstract and non means, there will be methods which have the body and there will be methods which don't have the body. Sorry, no body and with the body. Whereas in an interface, you don't use the keyword class, you use the keyword interface. All the methods are going to be abstract. Now you will ask me, what is the point of having an interface? Because they basically make sure you follow a pattern. They make sure that any class which is going to implement this interface has to provide the definition of all those methods. And through this, you make sure every class has the same way of defining methods, same name. So if you are, let's say, you have built a framework for mobile, okay, a UI. So you, if the, let's say you have a button here for cancel and then there is a ring button, okay, you know that. And cancel is going to do its own thing and ring is going to do its own thing. Now the same button, the same framework you implemented on a remote also. You know that okay, that cancel is going to cancel something on the TV, and ring probably is going to switch some channel. So behind the scene implementation can be different, but as a developer, you know that okay, my method that I have to call is cancel, and this one would be ring. So you can continue with your code, assuming everything would be in the same pattern. Are you getting my point? That's the point of having a framework. Does it make sense, guys?
Right. Like somewhat, or you can say partly. So my question to you is that interface can have instance variables and objects and constructor, or
No,
not like
interface
abstract?
cannot have any of those. No.
So just methods which are having no body.
Just methods with no body. It can have constant, but even then I have seen some issues. But yeah, they only have no body abstract methods. That is what an interface is. No constructor can be there in an interface.
So abstract having a difference that it can have methods with bodies.
Yes, that is the only difference. And it is a class. Interface is it basically all the methods are going to be abstract.
And then the first concept which we learned was that everything is possible. A method which has body, there is no method which cannot have a body. Objects can be created. Constructor can be created.
Also, you cannot, in the regular class, you cannot have abstract methods.
Yeah, that's what I said. In the first approach, the virtual approach, every method will have body. That means no method without a body.
Yeah.
We have constructor as well. We have properties as well. When I say properties, I mean to say instance variables.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we are going from a rich implementation to a leaner, like which have less features basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That is the difference between an interface, abstract class. Whenever you're designing frameworks, majority of the time you'll be using interfaces. Okay, now like this is a very good example. Let's say you have a UI, and UI has a UI for phone is very similar to, let's say, tablet. So you started, you know that okay, behind the scene these are my methods. So for a tablet person is going to define those cancel and ring and all those buttons, and for mobile person is going to define all those buttons. But from a UI perspective, all I need to cover is okay, this is going to, button's name will remain the same, because I can develop, because we're implementing a framework, and that makes sure that everybody follows a pattern. Does it make sense, guys? So let's quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
So methods defined at one place, not defined, just their declaration or their title and their argument types documented at one place.
Yeah.
And then if Apple Watch is having that, it needs that cancel and ring button, or a tablet or a phone, They will have to define their own body.
But as a UI guy, you don't have to worry about that implementation. You know, on this button, I need to call this method. On this button, I need to call this method. If it's a tablet, it will call the tablet's class method. If it is a phone, it will call the phone class. But you have made sure that phone class also has the same method name, and your tablet class also has the same method name. Your iPad class also has the same method name. Because you have implemented an interface.
Mm-hmm.
So just one thing here. Sorry, please go ahead.
No. Just a last question. So, what do we see most, Deepika? You have seen many projects or code bases, but are we using interfaces mostly in these things?
Yeah, mostly you will see.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, go ahead, Rahul. What is it?
Yeah, so I'm just curious in one thing, that the main purpose, there is also another purpose, is that to keep the method name same, and then while calling, customize it as you need, right? So now just keep the name same, that is it, because there is nothing defined. Probably like we can just call it from wherever we are calling without having this as well, right?
But then see here, there is no, the beauty, you have to understand the beauty of interfaces, right? See, as I mentioned to you, if, let's say, think of it this way, okay, there is this UI.
And then it will become like duplication.
Then
this is more of like refactoring, isn't it?
Yeah. See, and then let's say he will have to, the UI guy who has to code for tablet, iPad, and iPhone, and Apple Watch. For all of them, he doesn't know. Okay, this button, if it's on a tablet, I have to call this. This button on the app, I have to. He's gonna go crazy. But when you tell him that, okay, every interface, all those interfaces, all those your Samsung phone or Apple phone, etc., they have the same interface. So behind the scene, you have made sure that, okay, these are my important methods each of the class is going to have, and all he needs to do is work on these buttons, which he knows that, okay, if I call this, if it's a tablet, it will call the tablet's click button. If it is I am doing it on iPhone, it will call the iPhone's click button. If I'm doing it on a Apple Watch, I'm calling. If you had your own unique name, then he will be confused. Okay, this is tablet. Okay, what method do I need to call? Then it can have its own version. Then I have to do if else. Okay, this doesn't it makes your life easy when you have interfaces, when you have a structure, when you have a pattern to follow. It's like a template, right? What is the beauty of a template? Tell me. Interface is nothing but it's a template. Why do you create templates? So that you can create as many things out of that template. Are you getting my point, Rahul? Think of what is the beauty of a template? Having a template tells you that, okay, this is the name should go here, date should go here, table should go here. These are the pointers in the table, right? It makes your life easy. Yes or no?
Can I relate this one with another example?
Sure, go ahead.
For example, like maybe I will have 4 different methods. One is insert, update, delete, and upsert, and which can be used everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So similarly, you can have like in trigger, right? In trigger, you have before create, before update, before delete, after undelete, let's say. These are the methods you have defined at one place in your trigger framework. Now, every class will implement the same methods. It makes it kind of follow. You won't come out of issues, won't exist, because then you know that, okay, I have to follow these methods, I have to implement these methods, and as you mentioned, you have one for insert, delete, update, and undelete. So that way, I think probably I'll try to find why do we need it, but I think template is a very good example of why do we need interface.
Yeah, what I mean to say is that this is not even template, it's just a name with a opening and closing bracket. I think that's what I mean, the method and the abstract. I mean, you haven't explained the interface yet, right? There we'll see the benefit of it, but at this moment, it is just a one line with just same name if you want to use, if you want to reuse.
I understand it is just the same line with a, but even with that same name, you're forcing them to implement it. That is the beauty.
Got it. Got it.
You're forcing them to implement. If they don't implement, they won't be able to save that class. That is what the rule says. Rule says that if you implementing that interface, you have to implement all the methods of that interface. So you are enforcing them to follow a certain structure.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, okay, so we are enforcing that, okay, you must use the same method name, but
Exactly.
you have to implement it. You have to define your own
Yes.
way to that,
That is
but you have to keep it same.
abstract. Like if you have abstract, see, I created an abstract method called calculate salary. In both of these classes, I had to define the same calculate salary. This calculate salary is completely different from this calculate salary, but I am following the same signature. The moment I change the signature, it's going to complain. Are you getting my point?
Yeah, now it is clear.
Okay. So now tell me quickly what will be the output of this program, and then we will wrap it up for today. So this is the full-time employee, this is the part-time employee. And employee one has just a straight print payslip. So it prints the employee name, it prints the hours worked, and it prints calculate salary. Quickly put your answers in the chat, please. I wish I could do it 3-way. But on Monday, I will have the Visual Studio Code ready. So hopefully we can split up over there.
Deepika, if you can go to employee1.fx, please.
Right here.
Thank you.
I want answers from everybody. And whoever still have questions, please go watch the recording for last 2 classes. And if you still don't understand, come back with your questions and we'll try to resolve it tomorrow. So let me go back here. So far, how many answers? I only got it from Ravi. What about others?
Can you go to the part-time employee class?
So right here.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Okay, let me see how many answers. Okay, excellent. 1 hours is this. Salary is per hour. Okay. So for this, okay, so Alice is going to be hours. Alice is the name. Hours worked will be 160. Salary is calculate salary, so it is nothing but monthly salary. Monthly salary is nothing but the salary. So 5,000. So nothing changes here. Then for the second one, Bob is the name. Then hours worked is 80. The salary in this case is going to be hours worked 80 multiplied by 25. So that should be the output. Who did not give the right answer? So if I go here, the pay slip for Alice, hours 160, correct? That's what we have. Yeah, 160 and then 5,000. And similarly, hours worked is 80, but the salary is 80 multiplied by 25. Everybody clear on today's class?
Yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue our discussion around here, and then I will also try to cover interfaces tomorrow. With that, we will then jump onto DML and database insert, and then we'll talk about exceptions, which will be next week. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you very much, and good night and good morning to people from good morning to Ajay. Okay, guys, take care. Goodbye.